It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And welcome back to another Friday that is dropped, and the Real Estate Breakfast, your Australian property radio podcast, talking all about local and national trends. Remember, of course, you can leave us that voice message if you've got something on your mind. You'll find the link below in the show notes. Let us know, and if you'd like to send us an email, you can do that too. myrealestatepodcast@gmail.com. Yeah, Friday, September the 26th today. And I've got to say, yesterday I was quite shocked to see a piece from Domain. Their story went something like this. Stephanie, who arrived at a Sydney rental inspection, she expected to see a modern two-bedroom apartment for $570 a week. Instead, you might have seen this, you might have seen the photos, she found a disgusting, filthy, unlocked apartment with stained bathroom, soap-scummed shower, debris on the floor, and a kitchen bench splattered with old coffee. It did look a shambles. Shocked at the property and the way that it was being shown, she then asked the agency if this was their standard. The agency said, "Don't worry, it will be cleaned before you move in." Well, I mean, this agency, come on. There's better standards than that. And I just wonder, from the landlord's point of view, the landlord is paying the agency to do their job, and that is to make sure that it is presented well. Now, for Stephanie, the experience highlighted just how disheartening Sydney's rental market has become. Let's go to Anthony Landau. He is the Managing Director and Mortgage Broker at Equilibria Finance. The question here, Anthony, who do you blame for this? I can't really blame the landlord, the owner of the property. It's got to fall on the agency.
It is really disheartening and really difficult for renters, but that's pretty appalling behaviour for a real estate agent to present a premises for lease in that sort of state. And I've looked at the article as well. Pretty ordinary stuff. And I guess it sort of goes to the point of the challenges for those trying to find a rental. Essentially, an agent thinks, look, I can get away with this and rent this property out in this state, given the difficulty of rental market and housing supply across the country. But pretty distressing article and pretty demotivating for those out there trying to find somewhere to live.
Now, it also sort of made me think, if you are a property owner, doesn't matter where you are in the country, what you probably want to do is do the odd audit. And that is, when they've got an open home, go along and actually see how it is being presented. So yeah, I think that is a real wake-up call for landlords, homeowners, just to make sure that the agency is doing the right thing. And if you are an agency and you're listening and you've seen those photos, let us know what you think. I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts on your fellow agencies out there and the way that they are presenting properties. Now, this week we've talked about the federal government. It has set this ambitious goal under the National Housing Accord, 1.2 million of new homes being allocated. We talked about this just a couple of days ago. Anthony, how close are we to meeting the housing target from where you sit?
Yeah, look, I know you've been discussing this topic a little bit this week from different perspectives. And just a reminder, the National Housing Accord was aiming to build 1.2 million new dwellings from over a 5-year period from mid-2024. It's on target to hit about 825,000. So we're nowhere near hitting that target. And we've got some 400,000 or 500,000 new entrants coming into Australia through our current migration policy at the moment. So it's really problematical, our housing supply. The main factors of this continue to be, relatively speaking, we've got the high interest rates, cost of labour and materials is very high relative to other projects, and also our tax regime and the ability to actually open up projects. So we're well down on numbers, and it doesn't look like improving anytime soon.
Yeah, it's a big problem. Jocelyn Martin, who we spoke to a couple of days ago, who is the Managing Director of HIA, she had this to say.
Well, first of all, I'd say that the gap in the 1.2 million homes is what we need to build to meet the numbers that you've talked about around migration. It's an ambitious target, but it's actually a very, very realistic target. And in some ways, I think it probably falls short of what we need to build and still doesn't solve the problems around affordability and demand outstripping supply. But if we can get to that number, we will be well on the way of trying to solve the problem.
Yeah, that is Jocelyn Martin. So where does housing stock stand if we have a look at spring 2025, Anthony, compared to recent years?
Yeah, look, just one other comment on those dwellings. Even recent ABS data shows that dwelling approvals is down 8.2% in the most recent data. So we're seeing no improvement. In terms of stock levels, back to your question, stock levels are down about 10% on this time last year. Spring is traditionally our strong time of year. Listings have risen coming into spring. They are down on this time last year and we're down about 1.3% on the 5-year average. We've seen a little bit of a lift coming into spring this year with the easing of rates. There is some rising sentiment, and for investors, they're starting to see some stronger capital gains. We're also starting to see the seller back in control a little bit more with this increasing demand, with first home buyers and investors coming back in the market. But overall, stock levels are down, making it a challenging market for those trying to get into it.
We are talking to Anthony Landau, our mortgage guru. He is there in Sydney on our Friday morning. We've got more after this.
Eager to expand your property expertise? Enhance your real estate know-how with us.
And Jimmy Kimmel on Wednesday, didn't he hand Donald Trump a sucker punch after being suspended under pressure following his controversial monologue? Kimmel returned with a vengeance, drawing 6.5 million live viewers. That is the highest audience in more than a decade. And his monologue defended satire, slammed political censorship, and amassed in total 26 million views online. And far from silencing him, Trump's campaign to cancel the show, well, it backfired spectacularly after the public outcry for free speech. So now Disney is probably front of mind for Trump to fire the next salvo. Watch this space. Never a dull moment in US politics.
Every week, unravel the real estate market to help guide your real estate journey.
And right now it is time for another property tip, and we were talking a couple of weeks ago with Sean there in Rockingham, and you've got something to tell the listeners when it comes to swimming pools.
Yeah, I think just a recent example of a swimming pool is a light on a swimming pool that wasn't working, but it's something that the seller hadn't turned on for years. In the pre-settlement inspection, turned it on, didn't work, and it caused issues in terms of the good working order clause. So I think pools is just something that people need to be aware of, checking for leaks, making sure they're in good order, and that the pool light works.
Your real estate journey starts here.
And it is a Real Estate Friday. Yes, the end of our working week. It's been a busy one here. How have you been getting on? Looking at those property listings, lining them all up. You know, it's true, isn't it, Anthony? On a Friday, people are sorting out what sort of properties they're going to be having a look at tomorrow. Always a busy day on a Saturday. We normally speak on a Saturday, but here's the precursor from you in terms of what people will do. They'll jot everything down. They'll figure out which is the best property to see, because a lot of them, of course, these open homes, they clash. It's not always easy to plan that out.
It's a really difficult project, effectively buying a house, and some of the biggest and strongest guidance we give our clients is around making sure you've got a good, strong approval in place. If you're at an auction, if it's a property you want to buy, that's your opportunity. You want to be ready to bid. So we're really, really big on getting pre-approvals. Funnily enough, Fridays for us can be very busy. We're often trying to get a pre-approval through for a client through one of the banks or providers, give them some guidance about their capacity at auctions. This time of year as well, there's a lot of that going on, and coming into Saturday where, as you say, people might be moving from one open house to another, or even from one auction to another, just to try and get that home that they're after.
Yes, we're off to the races, basically. So what's actually driving where we are in the year, people to sell at the moment? Or on the flip side of the coin, people are just holding off from listing their properties?
Yeah, there's a lot of people still holding off from listing their properties. What we're seeing is the main challenge for those selling properties are upgraders. Moving from a unit or a townhouse to a house for a young family is becoming more and more challenging for a number of reasons. The gap between the median house prices and median unit prices is rising. There's your normal friction costs of moving, including stamp duty, which people have to pay again. Because of that gap and because of the cost to move, there's the sheer size of deposit upgraders need now. So we're seeing a lot of upgraders hold their current property, maybe look at a renovation or go, look, we'll make do here for another couple of years until we can increase our savings or reposition ourselves or even move to another location. We're seeing most of the stock come from two main areas. We were having investors offload properties with a lot of affordability challenges in holding that property, especially with the higher rates we've had in the market, higher cost to hold of properties. Investors have been offloading some properties over the last 12 to 18 months and just focusing on paying down their home loan. We're also seeing, interestingly, and some recent data supported this, some downsizers are starting to offload their properties. They've been waiting for the market to pick up. They've been in a position where they've been able to hold their property, time their run into the market. With the market picking up a little bit again, with demand picking up, we are now starting to see some downsizers who've been sitting on that family home for a while start thinking about their next place to live, whether it's into a smaller property, whether it's into an over 55s type property. Again, some of the things holding them back have been around the cost to move.
Okay, let's talk about the rate cut. This is on everybody's mind. What is the RBA going to do? We're in the lane of expecting nothing short of a cut. It's not going to go up. It's just a question of what that cut is going to be. Have you got any thoughts around this?
My thoughts are that we're not going to get a cut in September. We're not going to get a cut at next week's meeting. The inflationary data that came out this week was not as good as expected. The headline number, in fact, rose to 3%, which is the highest level in 12 months. The annual trimmed mean, which takes out a lot of those volatile items, was down from 2.7% to 2.6%, but it's still a lot hotter than they expected. Essentially, it's on the back of a run on housing market and dwelling prices and removal of these energy subsidies that have basically been propping up the energy prices. But maybe we are going to get one more cut before the end of the year in November, but I think they're going to wait for those quarterly inflation numbers, which they take a lot more stead in, which are going to come out before the November RBA meeting.
I'm going to go the other way. Yes, I can hear what you're saying in terms of that spiking up, but I think that there's an outside chance that they might make that a 25 basis points drop. But we are going to report on that, of course, next week. Anthony, enjoy your Friday. Great to chat. Look forward to talking to you in a couple of weeks' time.
Have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll catch up soon.
Listen to expert perspectives with exclusive real estate conversations. And supercharge your knowledge base with us.
We've got the First Home Buyers Scheme, which is coming up on the 1st of October. Very exciting for a lot of these first home buyers. Are you starting to hear that excitement build?
We sure are. We have obviously had the scheme in place at $900,000 for a few years now. With our median house price being $950,000 here in Penrith, it is locking those first home buyers out a little bit at this stage. So I think that the new scheme coming in is very exciting, and it means that they're going to have a fair chance to get into properties like this.
So just expand on that, because more opportunity, more capacity, of course, in terms of the amount of money that they can borrow. Just give us a sense of some of those conversations that you're having around that whole issue.
A lot of people are waiting for it, even though the market has been very positive this month and the previous months. Speaking from experience, when the scheme was at $700,000, $800,000, $900,000, once those are implemented, it has really driven the prices up to that mark of where the scheme sort of lands.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.